let's just move on further and talk about the decimal numbers. As we know that from our further conversation, the decimal numbers are basically of the two type in which we have converted the fractions into the terminating and a non-terminating. So on the same way, we can say that the decimal numbers can be of two type, which are terminating and the non-terminating one. So what is the meaning of the terminating decimal numbers? We know that whenever the remainder is equal to 0, such kind of the numbers are nothing but called as the terminating one. So let us suppose I am taking some of the example of the terminating one as 1.25. Let us suppose I am talking about 1.25 decimal. So 1.25, it is a terminating one in which the numbers are actually not repeating and there is nothing at all. So 1.25 is nothing but an example of a terminating decimal. Let us suppose I am talking about 0.5, it is a terminating decimal. Let us suppose I am talking about 2.354, it is a terminating one. Further, let us suppose I am talking about 5.678, it is a terminating decimal number. So let us suppose I'm talking about the non-terminating one. What is the meaning of a non-terminating one? So non-terminating actually means whenever the fraction in which we are dividing any two particular numbers, they are having the remainder as a non-zero digit, then such kind of the fractions or such kind of the decimal numbers are called as the non-terminating one. But now the non-terminating do have further two types. The further two types are called as the first one, which is nothing but recurring, which is also called as repeating, and further the second one is nothing but called as the non-recurring, which is also called as the non-repeating one. So the non-terminating decimals are of basic two types, that is first one is recurring and the second one is non-recurring. So what is the meaning of a non-terminating recurring decimal number? So any decimal number or any particular fraction, let us suppose we are talking about fractions, in any particular fraction, whenever the remainder is non-zero, because we know that in the non-terminating, remainder can never be is equal to 0. So for any fraction, whenever the remainder is non-zero and they do have a string of numbers which are actually repeating, let us suppose I'm talking about 1 by 3. I'm talking about 1 by 3. So 1 by 3 was like 0.333333 and so goes on. So this particular representation in which the digits are repeating itself again and again, such a representation is nothing but called as a non-terminating recurring one. So this is nothing but an example of a non-terminating recurring decimal number. So 0.3 bar, 3.3 bar, let us suppose I am talking about 0.27 bar or any particular such kind of representation in which the remainder is non-zero but a string of number is repeating itself again and again. Such a representation is nothing but called as a non-terminating recurring decimal number. So let's just move on further towards the non-recurring one. What is the meaning of non-recurring? The meaning of non-recurring is that it is not repeating but also it is non-terminating. So let us suppose I'm talking about any particular number. Let us suppose I'm taking 1.1234561211565, let us suppose 1, 1, so goes on. Any particular such representation in which there is no repetition of the numbers at all, means there is no particular pattern that is repeating itself again and again, such like this particular representation in which 3 is repeating multiple times or 3 is repeating again and again. There is no such numbers or the pair of numbers, or there is no such any pattern which is repeating. So such a kind of a representation of the decimal numbers is nothing but called as a non-terminating and a non-recurring. So the very famous examples of the non-terminating and non-recurring numbers are nothing but square root 2, square root 3, or we can say pi. These are called as the non-terminating and the non-recurring decimal numbers or the non-recurring numbers. So this is all about the decimal numbers classification in which we have the terminating and the non-terminating and the further division of the non-terminating into two parts. representation, which is non-terminating and non-recurring. A non-terminating and a non-recurring representation is nothing but called as irrational number. So always remember this fact that a non-terminating and a non-recurring, or you can also say repeating, both of these words are same. A non-terminating and a non-recurring numbers, they are called as the irrational numbers, because of the reason that they cannot be converted into fractions at all. They cannot be converted. Let us suppose we are talking about root 2. We cannot convert root 2 into a rational number, and obviously root 2 is an irrational number. Irrational numbers cannot be converted into a rational number. So such kind of representations that is non-terminating and non-recurring is nothing but called as irrational number. So always remember that decimal numbers are classified as terminating, non-terminating. Further, non-terminating is classified as non-terminating recurring, non-terminating non-recurring, and these two first representations are under rational numbers because they can be converted into the fractions. And further, the vice versa condition, the fractions can also be converted into the decimal numbers. But for the last, that is a non-terminating and a non-recurring number is a such kind of a representation which cannot be converted into a fraction. So they are called as nothing but the irrational number. I hope the classification of such decimal numbers is all clear to you.